This is case study number 9, and it is titled How Supply Chain Management Problems Killed Target Canada. Well, first, start off by saying Target is one of the world's most successful general merchandise retailers. Target eventually ventured into the Canadian market, building huge distribution centers. Sales never took off due to production and operation problems, and they eventually had to opt out of Canada. The whole thing failed. Technology was another problem Target faced, as it could not keep up with their operations. Their supply chain management was just not efficient enough to keep things up and running. Now, the first question: how important was supply chain management for Target, and how did it relate to the business model? Well, supply chain management was really important to Target, especially because the reason they failed was because it was not implemented correctly. It was one of the main reasons why it was not successful. The implementation of this was not thought through enough, and Target faced inventory problems, communications, and more. Target wanted to use supply chain management to help expand their stores and generate more product, but they could not. Identify all Target's problems, factors that contributed. Well, inventory management, distribution management, lack of employee experience, flaws in software, product management, and bad point of scale system. These were all problems that Target faced through their supply chain, and management did not calculate the time it would take to be able to implement the new system effectively. They weren't patient enough, and things were just messy. They were making too many mistakes, too many inventory mistakes. They didn't meet the needs for the stores. The technology had faults. It did not work well. How much of Target's problems were technology based? Well, technology was only part of Target's problems. The point of sale system and the supply chain management technology had its detriments, but the management and organization problems were a huge factor as to why it failed. The main factor was just the rush of change to a system where employees and technology was not ready to keep up with it to sustain as a company. They had the system in place. It was just kind of too fast, too rushed. Things weren't set into place in order for it to be successful. The fourth question: how responsible was management for Target Canada's problem? Management was the main factor to the demise of Target Canada. Um, the change of currency and measuring system was rushed and not thought out. They didn't really analyze things thoroughly when moving to Canada, and it just all went downhill. The inventory was not managed correctly in distribution centers and stores due to technology that did not work well when it came to communication. Stores would have too much product, or distribution would be loaded with product because stores weren't able to get the right packages or right things that they needed for their stores. And also they had inexperienced staff that just wasn't ready for this change. The fifth question: what should Target have done differently? I think they should have waited and made sure their staff and management could handle the transition. SEM should have been better organized and understood before opening stores. The whole supply chain was just a mess, and when they started opening stores, they just couldn't run it efficient enough to stay afloat. A better trained staff would have been nice, and they should have been more cerebral with the choices they made and not made such bold predictions and rushing into things. In conclusion, Target is a very successful retailer and have done things right for many years. Their transition to Canada just was not one of those things, or maybe it was, they just weren't ready for it at the time. It had promise, but their management just wasn't there, the technology was faulty, and their organization's factors made it detrimental. They rushed into something and had their hands more full than they expected. Their supply chain management was very flawed, and inventory stock was too disorganized. With more time, they could have been successful in Canada, I think. And question one that I have for you guys: how could have patience helped Target Canada be successful? Well, I think with more time to train employees on the new technology and better develop supply chain management, they would have had less inventory problems. Let me know what you guys think about how patience could have helped Target. And the second question: how could better communication technology change the distribution problems? With better technology, things would run smoothly or more smooth. They could communicate orders and inventory better and more efficiently. Maybe some of the distribution centers would not have been overflowed with products. Thank you.